Hey, welcome to the Tenfold AI podcast. I'm Heather. This is Matt. We're the founders of a pretty cool app called ProMode.ai, and that's who sponsors this podcast also. Hey, Matt, how you doing?
Good. I like a different non-quarter zip today. Pink.
Yeah,
I like
I'm trying
this.
I'm trying to soften my vibe a little,
New year, new you.
And all the young kids are now into the quarter zips. Have you seen that trend in like urban culture? Um, of youngsters wearing quarter zips, and so now I feel like my fashion's been hacked.
Can we just take a moment to appreciate youngsters? I mean, I
These little
can't
whippersnappers over here stealing my style.
I can't let you get away with youngsters. That's just too adorable.
Man, I sound older than hell every day, but that's what it is. So you and I have not, we've both been like heads down for a minute. I think you had a trip with some exciting meetings, and I've been having meetings out the wazoo. So yeah, we're kind of touching base in real time over podcast. I'm really curious to hear what you've been learning, what you're seeing, what's on your mind.
Yes, I've got some. Well, let's start with an event that I went to this week. I think Rob, I want Rob to hear about this because I think that he will appreciate the quagmire that I walked into.
Okay. And
So,
Rob's my husband, just FYI.
yeah, sorry. Thanks for the context. Anyway, so I went to an event at like a large corporate enterprise headquarters earlier this
Uh-huh.
week. And I was really excited for it because the event was like sort of a practicum, like hands-on experience. So there was some networking, there was Chipotle, there was some like Sprite Zero. I'm like, okay, this
Okay.
sounds great.
Yep.
And
Friend of the show, Sprite Zero.
yeah, and the whole thing, and there was a machine learning component to it, which I'm really fascinated in. And it's like an area that I don't have a ton of like engineering expertise doing. So I was wanting to learn a little bit about connecting some more of our machine learning functions to our agents instead of having those occur separately, but not to get too far into the weeds. So anyway, I'm sitting there, I'm like 5 minutes early to the thing, and there's like a 30 minutes of mingling beforehand.
Your
And I'm starting
favorite.
to, yeah, exactly. Well, and I've started to look around the room and I'm like, wow, everybody here is dressed like well, appropriately. Everybody is making appropriate eye contact, good small talk, like appropriate handshakes, talking about the weekend. And I'm like,
Seasoned networkers.
well, here's the thing is I'm like,
Okay.
what is going on here? This is
Yeah.
not what I thought it was going to be. And then we start going with it. And I realize this is a room full of enterprise IT people learning how to build a chat agent. And because there was, I didn't realize, I learned this after the fact, but I was like, I was looking it up, so I guess, in IT and in corporate America in general, you earn badges, and it's kind of a resume thing.
Uh-huh.
So there was a big enterprise IT service department that was hosting this thing. And I realized I am in the middle of like a lead gen. I'm like in the middle of an enterprise lead gen IT event where they sent in like their big guns to come and present. I mean, Rob, I think, was just at one of these things.
Yeah.
And so I found myself at this and I was like, oh shit. Okay. I thought this was like a founders group. I thought it was kind of like really honestly, I thought it was a hackathon is what I thought I was going to.
Okay.
And so I ended up with like very seasoned IT heads. And I'm like immediately like, oh God, I do not belong here. This is really intimidating.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that makes me feel, I guess, better that I'm having the same feelings in my
Totally.
conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also like, I'm so happy. I immediately, when I realized what was going on there, I'm like, I'm so glad Heather isn't here. I was really pushing you to go.
Huh? And I
And
wanted to.
I'm glad you did it. It ended up being really awesome. And so just give you a general idea of what we did in the practicum part of it. So they had created a bunch of like fictitious data sets for a large retail company. So probably the best approximation for this would be like Dick's Sporting Goods. And
Huh?
so we were building a chatbot with this data set. And then and then we built an agent, did some machine learning on the data. It was like geographical sales, sales by store.
Hmm.
There was some cool marketing data that we did in there. So we were able to analyze some correlations between like influencer mentions and product sales, things like that. But overall, this is into the idea of the AI maturity curve
Uh-huh.
in these organizations. My overall takeaway was the agent that we built and its capabilities were very rudimentary. I mean, I think the best way to describe it would be like a custom GPT that has a machine learning tool that it can use.
Mm.
And it was just all contained within that company's environment. And so then I started to play around with it, like everybody got their badge and there was like an hour left in the event. And so I started like, toying around with it and trying to do interesting things. And so, I ran some machine learning on some of the marketing data. And so I was very interested in like our paid ad spend. What is like our break even on our paid ad spend? Where do we need to stop spending money on ads? And I really started to go deep on you've said it before, ROAS.
Mm-hmm.
What is that?
ROAS,
Return.
return on ad spend.
Yep. Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
I know that
Finding
like
point
I've
of
heard just,
diminishing return.
yeah. So like I've heard from you that this is like probably a really important metric for a
Mm-hmm.
company. And so I was like, well, what if we could just figure this out with this agent?
Call it
And
the money machine.
yes. And so but I was just struck by the there's only one layer deep. Like that was just it. It became just really obvious that some of like just inherently these chat agents that are even being deployed at an enterprise level. I mean, to have this company come in to your enterprise and build this chatbot, it'd be a multi-million-dollar engagement. Our friend Peter was there, and he was the one that really clued me into what was going on. He's like, yeah, my company used to host these events. This is a lead gen situation.
Mm-hmm.
He said like, so I was like, well, what's the value of the deal here? You know what I mean? If one of these IT heads was like, yeah, we want to use your infrastructure to build this company-wide chatbot. I mean, he was telling me, he's like, dude, this is $1.5 million a month engagement for
Holy
this
shit.
to
What?
come in and like build and support this chatbot. And I was like, okay. But here's the thing that struck me. I think that there's going to be an inherent we were talking about the AI maturity curve. And this is where I think that maturity curve, like, I think this is sort of the trajectory of it. I think that every company is going to have one of these. I think that there's going to be a chatbot in every company where an employee can just quickly pull up the like PTO policy. They can submit for, FMLA. They can, and it's just going to be freaking seamless.
Mm-hmm.
And, employee could ask, let's say there's an employee that's working in, some department and they need to know how many new stores they opened up this year. That information is just going to be super readily available and super slick.
Mm-hmm.
Now, but it's one layer deep across most everything going on in the company.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think, and that's just a no-brainer. Everybody's used ChatGPT. It's their frame of reference. But I think that where the maturity curve starts to accelerate is when people start to take the data that was analyzed to create that company-wide, really broad, really shallow chatbot.
Yeah. Kind of an
And then they
FAQ
take,
chatbot.
yes, but taking that same data and then engineering departmental systems that go 10 layers deep. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, just like not only calculating return on ad spend, but like building the copy for those ads,
Mm-hmm.
like analyzing all of demographic information that you would need to run those, building out landing pages, things like that. So
Yeah.
I think this becomes the moat for like corporate AI adoption, is that there will be these like infrastructure providers that are like, hey, here's a safe general purpose chatbot for your company. And then departmentally, we already have all of this data secure, processed, and ready to go. It would make no sense for a big enterprise infrastructure company to then go in and engineer every departmental solution.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that when we look at what is the tech stack of a corporation look like moving forward, I think it is really starting to look like what we thought it would, where you've got just general purpose, centralized data, and then you've got this departmental depth in
Mm-hmm.
tooling. And I think when you go into the depth stage, that's where we enter into one-shot workflows.
Yes.
We have all of the information already to assemble the one-shot workflows. But the infrastructure providers, the cloud computing providers, and it would make no sense for them economically to go in and build these deep departmental one shots. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think if we look at that stack, it's going to be just this flat line and then probably 4 different broad departmental tools that just run super deep and can just run repeated processes over and over again with a click.
Totally. I talked to a woman this week, who and confirm this. Does she work for the same company that hosted the event you went to?
I think so.
I
Yep.
think so,
Yep.
because she mentioned, I don't want to say it, the snow something.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. That's the
Yeah,
one.
okay. Same thing. Yes, and brilliant woman, like has been in enterprise marketing ops for and data analytics, data management since the 80s. This woman,
Mhm.
like really, really sharp. And she turned me on to several resources for which I'm really grateful. But she was talking about how she just thinks it's so funny, this whole AI thing. She's all in it. Like she's embracing AI, but she's like, Heather, we're cleaning up data right now. That's what we're doing. Priority 1, clean the data. And she's like, you know what the priority was in 1983? Clean up the
Clean the
data.
data. Yep.
She's like,
Yep.
it doesn't sound sexy. It doesn't sound, fresh and new, but at the end of all of these AI deployment sort of, dreams that they have, it's like, oh, and first we have to clean up the data. So I think that's the phase a lot of big companies are in. They're like, shit, we actually have to clean the data. Like,
Yes.
I think so many companies were kind of waiting for a tech to emerge that would prevent them from having to go through that kind of arduous step. But lo and behold, it's clean the data.
Totally.
Yeah, but that's why it's so brilliant that we chose to build ProMode on content marketing workflows, because that data is already clean.
Yes. Yep.
Like
Yep.
your website is already published, your company comms and public image has been curated. If you are a growth stage company, like you know who you are and how you speak. So that creates an opportunity for us to launch and for you to see and feel benefits of one-shot workflows really, really early, as opposed to if this was a accounting software, where you're doing one-shot accounting workflows. Well, guess what? You're going to have to do a lot of forensic accounting work to make sure the
Yes.
data going in is clean. With ProMode, companies can have a taste of that future in the short term.
You bring up another good point. I've been like, yeah, the fact that we're dealing with, there's a couple of things, right? So the fact that we're dealing with like marketing content is our end point for our one-shot workflows. It really is also the area where, so like in all of the AI that we talk about, when this lady was working in the 90s, on data, they probably, if she was working in enterprise, they probably had some really simple machine learning scripts that they would run on that. And so, today, you can just run a little bit more sophisticated machine learning models on a bunch of like numerical data. And you can do it a lot faster, and anybody can do it with a click of a button. But really, in the AI space, the newest thing that we're all learning is large language models. I mean, that is really kind of the newest like era in
Mm-hmm.
AI. And I think that with marketing content, the cool thing is that like that's a nice little nexus of just it takes a lot of time to get that from humans to take it to its raw form, to its published version. You know,
Mm-hmm.
to get something up on a website is just an astronomical feat in an organization like that. But yeah, so there's the large language models are what provide the lift to make that happen. You know what I mean? Is the most cumbersome of all the potential AI workflows, and large language models just chew that stuff up, no problem. So,
Mm.
if you're going to say like ROI is going to be hours saved, I mean, just if that's your metric, this is by far the biggest slam dunk. As far as
Mm-hmm.
you want to go from a big raw data set, and you want a finished product that's published, and you just wanted to just count the number of words that pass through that. And it's astronomical. I mean, compared to accounting or any other department.
Right.
Uh, and then also to your point, there's no legacy systems. That's another cool thing about large language models is it can take qualitative data, like all of your sales information, all of your like sales meetings, your decks, your slides, your PDFs, everything that you've ever done. And
Mm-hmm.
just, you don't need to map any fields. You're not mapping like quarterly earnings to this new system's quarterly earnings. You're just,
Mm-hmm.
ingesting the raw PDF. So yeah,
Totally.
I'm with you. It's I don't know. It's cool. It was really cool to see how things are playing out. Like to just be sitting in that room, being like, this is how all of these companies are thinking about this. This is a cool opportunity.
Yeah, you mentioned that it wasn't what you thought it would be. And I think I can say that about every single AI focused event I've been to, is that it wasn't what I thought it would be. Like, for better or worse, sometimes it's, okay, this is way too dense. That's pretty rare. And not to toot my horn or anything, but it's just, I think maybe those super dense events are a little less common, but either it's super dense or it's like kindergarten stuff. And you're like, you're showing me how to create a LinkedIn post with ChatGPT. This is
Yeah.
ridiculous. But I think part of that is like why that's happening, that we go to places and it's like, this is not what we expected, is because, the writers for those events, the flyers that make us want to go, the language hasn't been, like, we don't have a shared language yet for AI in this space. And that's honestly one of the most exciting parts for me, because I do love the challenge of finding a way to communicate something in a clear way. And then eventually you start to see trends emerge and language starts to form. And then we have this kind of like tribal language of AI, but is really all over the place right now.
Yeah. There's no shorthand for things. And
Exactly. There's no
there's
shorthand.
no CRM. You know what I mean? Or even I've thought about this with ProMode, like a content management system. Like, okay, is that what you could, like an AI native content management system?
Mm-hmm.
And that would probably be the most accurate shorthand. But I think to your point, content management system comes with like leftover baggage. For a lot of people, that
Yep.
just means WordPress,
Right. Yeah.
or
CMS
a
is your,
HubSpot or,
yeah,
whatever.
you're so right. But truly, Pro mode, it makes more sense. Like if you just break the words down, it makes more sense that Pro mode would be a content management system than WordPress,
Yes.
because WordPress is only managing a small sliver of your content. and that's what's on your website today. That's not the global body of your content.
Totally.
Whereas
Totally.
ProMode is the global body of your content, email, comms, social, web, past, present, and future. Like,
Right.
it's all of those things.
Right.
So that's a content management system, but you're right. It's like, I can't call it that because there's the preconceived idea of what that is.
Yes, yes. I do think though, after this event, the visual of depth, I'm like, okay, this is something people will understand is like, because right now everything is all about AI that gives you an answer, AI that
Mm-hmm.
does a thing. So this AI makes video, this AI makes images really good, this AI does deep research, whatever the case may be. So a lot of the focus is on that, the answers and the thing that it does. But everybody understands the concept of, okay, so like imagine you had a chat bot just for your company that you hosted. It had all of the information in it. Any department can go in there and ask it a question, and it does it really well. Is it safe to assume that that same chat bot could not dive deep into one department and know as much as somebody who's been there doing it for 10, 15 years? Everyone's like, yeah, obvious that is. And then so then to be able to frame it as like, okay, you've got this broad shallow deployment, and then imagine every department just has this like super deep AI. I mean, a department by nature inside of a large enterprise, a department by nature is doing repeated tasks, right? Every
Mm-hmm.
repeated task has a template, it has a process, it has a, you know, and everybody that works there, their job is just to do those repeated tasks using the provided templates that some manager created whenever.
Mm-hmm.
And so like that's where this like deep departmental integration I think begins to make sense. Is like, okay, it would be impossible for that chatbot to be able to execute on the 100 different things that the HR department does from these templates and these checklists. It would just be inconceivable.
Mm-hmm.
But there will be tooling that will then like whatever comes out of that broad chat bot, there's a place for that to go that has intense depth to it. I think this is something people will understand, just the visual of it.
So, how do you think, like in the conversation in the room, how did you see ProMode sliding into their current adoption curve or philosophy?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, and you could tell that the chatbot charge is led from the top. That's like CEO, CISO type initiative. On the technical side, how would ProMode integrate with something like that? I mean, I was kind of excited to see that companies are doing data cleanup because
Yeah, they
to
are.
be able to just bolt on to something like that already, and just because I'm sure that they're coming in, IT probably has that broken out. So like, here's the marketing, here's all the marketing's folders, here's like whatever PR folders, things like that. So to be able to bolt on to something like that would be just amazing because then
Huh?
it means that I don't have to do it.
Yeah, and there sure are a lot of companies doing that, like doing data cleanup as a service, like doing, I don't know, what does that company do? I mean, it's like cybersecurity, it's translating data into AI readable databases. Like they're doing all of that at scale for very large companies. And then those companies are very ready at that point to click into a platform to
Yes.
handle, because I think what will happen is C-level, the C-level execs, they'll start to learn that AI isn't just so that each individual employee can know more, right? Can get an answer quickly. Like what days do we have off this year? Or,
Mhm.
when did we launch this office in Italy or whatever? Like it's not just so that each employee can know more. It will become each employee doing more and
Yes.
producing more of quality.
Yes, exactly. So I think where products like ProMode slide in there. And so I think that I've always thought there's going to be like, okay, ProMode is like marketing and comms. There's going to be an HR ProMode. There's going to be a legal ProMode. And there's probably going to be like an accounting and finance ProMode.
Yeah. Not from us, though. Somebody else is going
No,
to do
no,
that.
like
We're
I'm
not
not
going to.
trying to, yeah,
Hell no.
I barely got one in me. But the, but there will be a need for, because I mean, I'm sure Rob can attest to this. I'm positive that every time a document needs to go into this system, the bottleneck is going to be IT. And everybody's going to be trying to figure out, how do we create an interface where each department can put something in here? How do we create an interface where every department can take something out of here and use it
Yes.
for something else? And
The
so that's where I
visibility
think,
of the database.
totally. So that's where I think the application, that's where I think the AI application layer comes into play, is just the thing for the department head and their team to interface with, to where data is like passed back and forth from these centralized systems set up by these large enterprise infrastructure companies.
Mm-hmm.
That will have to be the case, because otherwise, I mean, you're going to you're going to IT and asking them to run a Python script on every random meeting brief that you have. It's going to be untenable. So there will need to be some application layer that is
Mm-hmm.
connected there. And so that's awesome. I mean, that is like, just think about, Heather, the amount of education that will save us from needing to do compared to what we're having to do right now. Is like, if a company is already going through the process of centralizing and processing this data, we don't even need to tell that story anymore. They get it.
It's so funny. I was just talking to somebody earlier this week. He's a consultant, a busy consultant. He's always booked. He does really good work. And he was talking about how a client of his, I believe they're in manufacturing, perhaps, started a month ago or so recording all of their in-person meetings for transcription. So AI, it's like an AI meeting,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, note taker, but for in-person meetings. And he's like, and now nobody has to take notes. It's amazing. Nobody, this is great. And I said, okay, well, then what? And he's like, what do you mean, then what? And I'm like, what happens to the notes? And he's like, well, they can like reference back to it if they need to. And I'm like, okay, you're not going to see any kind of ROI from that. Like, where is the ROI in just having a bank of words that you guys said 3 months ago? I mean, in fact, you're probably taking a loss, because the act of note taking is probably better than recording
Yes,
the, like, the
exactly.
cognitive capture of the ideas. There's a
Exactly.
lot of science behind taking notes and absorbing information, da da da. But, where the gain could be is then if you're activating those transcriptions. And he's like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, tools like ProMode. He's like, wait, you can upload those transcripts to ProMode? And I'm like, yeah, yes.
This
And
is just the beginning, Steve. I don't know.
right,
I don't know what to say, but yeah.
right. No, I think, we don't do it today, but I think a day comes where we are doing automated, data transfers from these AI note takers within companies who want that to be part of their database. And then we're informing their database. And the wealth of information and value in those transcripts, especially sales calls, where you've got questions and the same question being asked over time, and then you're creating content from those questions. That's
Yes.
how those notes should be used.
Yeah. And actually, you know what? My big takeaway, like the engineering technique that I learned, which was so obvious then in hindsight, but it was just one of those really elegant techniques. Yeah, you can give an agent a separate LLM just to run Python. Like it's just executing your Python for you and then passing it to the agent. I know this doesn't mean anything, but it was like the thing that you're describing, the dynamic data feed, has been something that's been in the back of my mind. Like, okay, eventually we're gonna have to figure this out. I know it's possible. I just don't know what's the simplest way to go about it. I
Hmm.
learned that at this event was like just, have a dumb little LLM execute all your Python and there you go.
Yeah.
Hey, you want to
Yeah,
see some, go ahead.
I was just gonna say you'd probably wanna set some rules like, to prevent internal calls from loading in and,
Yes,
only calls
exactly.
outside of the domain or whatever.
Yes, yes.
Mhm.
You want to see some, you want to wrap up with some app updates that we're getting ready to
Yes,
launch? You want to see something
please.
cool?
Yes, I do.
All right. So we've like finished out. So this is all in testing right now, but we're working on the whole collab aspect of it. So in ProMode, we've got 25 different permission sets. So like it's pretty robust. And so like to what we're talking about here, you want to be really careful with this data, but you also want to be able to collaborate on it. This is the fundamental problem that we're solving. So for all of these little data sets that we have here, so like this would be your audience personas and everything like that. We now have the ability to collaborate on all of it. So I can mention people in comments. I can assign things for approval to them. I can set my comments as like publicly visible. So, and then we can now share documents from ProMode. So this would be like part of a campaign brief. So this would be like the audience persona that you're using with something. And then you can also, on the actual document itself, you can make comments.
Oh, this is slick.
So
And
we've
then
got
you're
like
sending how are you sending?
yep,
Email?
yep. And then people will get notified. And then we also have the ability. So these are our overlays. This is the training data that an LLM uses. And then I can request that a manager approve this overlay. So if I'm like, okay, I built this whole campaign brief, and then you'll see, and then my manager will get a copy of the audience profile that I created, get the whole packet. It'll just be in a big,
Hmm?
like, just imagine like a stapled packet delivered to your boss. And then that person can then go in there and they can approve your overlay and you're good to go. And we
Brilliant.
we created some accordions for all these big data sets just to make it a little bit more visually appealing here.
So
Uh,
companies with complex approval cycles, approval workflows, this is key.
yes, absolutely.
And for whatever reason, you're complex. It could be just a control freak at the top. It could be a highly regulated industry with compliance and legal and whatnot. Like for whatever reason, you're complex and you need that kind of collaboration. That's brilliant.
Yeah. Yep.
And then that overlay or that packet can be reviewed by legal, compliance, leadership, whomever. And rather than going through every single piece of content in a monthly content calendar one by one, they're going over that packet, and it could be once a quarter that they're going through that. And then
Hmm.
all of the content for that quarter is created and greenlit very quickly because that packet was approved.
Totally. I had a really awesome experience yesterday. One of our long time customers is growing like crazy. And
Uh,
so they're like expanding their marketing team. So now it's actually fun because now there's like layers, like several layers of management and responsibility inside of their marketing department. And so anyway, I was training these new folks and we were going over like creating an overlay. Here's how you add an audience. Here's how like, if you're running a campaign, this is how I would, the general process of setting it up. And then I showed them the overlay. And I was like, so this is something, if you would want to get this overlay approved, and then once that's approved once and somebody looks through it, makes all of the edits, and it's like good to go, I was like, you can create like hundreds of pieces of content from this, and no two will be the same. And nobody has to review any one piece of content, because there will not be anything in any content that is not in this overlay packet. And the gal who had been running ProMode, she's now like, I think, in a supervisory role at this point. I was watching her on the video call, and so she's been the one running it. She's not been on the like receiving end of needing to approve everything. And when I said that, she obviously knows this, but then she just went, her face lit up.
Yeah, it
She's like,
clicked.
I didn't even think of that part. I'm still thinking I have to go through each little freaking LinkedIn post and email that comes out of here. And I was like,
That's
yes,
amazing.
exactly. That's what this is about. Like,
I love it.
you just, this high level thing, you review it, and there's the benefit of the fact that nothing is allowed inside of this cocoon.
Yes. I love new employees coming into our clients, because those brand new employees go have a beer with their last coworker from the job they left, and they're like, you will not believe this slick ass tool we're using. It's called
Yes.
ProMode, and
Yeah.
share
Like and
the knowledge.
subscribe.
Right. Friend of the show.
All right. I got to get out of here.
Yeah. This was a fun little crash course, little speedy deep dive.
Shorty.
Cool stuff. Yeah, this has been the Tenfold AI podcast with Matt and Heather, sponsored by ProMode.ai. We will see you next time.
Bye.